So next, I guess Air Force is granting more marijuana waivers to recruits who test positive for THC.
Yeah.
Uh, I-
Yeah.
so-
So get I did I did a story
What?
about this like 3 months ago on as a short, and it was this that the Air Force is going to allow people or applicants who have tested positive for THC to be able to reapply, which is pretty awesome. And then it kind
So
of
they get a drop clean that second time, though, right?
yeah. You have to be clean. So here and then that's what I was gonna say. It kind of sparked the conversation. Then, do you want your pilots to be high when they're doing their job? And I asked the audience to you guys, or I asked you guys. It's past the question. What do you think? Should pilots have access to cannabis during flight? Maybe not during flight.
Trying to do a
Wow.
dab and just
Maybe not during flight. No.
using their knees to steer.
Woohoo! You rolling that over there or what, bro?
I smoke a lot, like a lot, and even I'm
Not
like,
yeah, not during flight. But should your pilots have access to cannabis before for being asked to fly? And then my personal take is if you're going to, it really comes down to the definition of what is high. You know what I mean? If you are under the influence and inebriated, meaning you no longer have the functions, the reflexes, the cognitive ability to perform your tasks, then no, obviously you should not. That'd be, in my opinion, that's just no
inebriated or
different.
stoned.
Well, again, it comes down to the definition. I like to switch it up and say medicated, because if I've got a pilot that suffers from whatever, and this pilot uses cannabis as a medication to maybe calm their anxiety, their depression, maybe their whatever, and they need to have a dose an hour before, 2 hours before, the morning of, whatever, I say then absolutely. Why would I deny my pilot their medication that would allow them to perform their duties to the highest ability? I don't want them to be intoxicated though. Like I don't want them to be inebriated, stoned per se. You know what I mean? Like it comes down to that definition. I don't want them to be unable to perform their duties. And that goes for any field of employment. Why would we expect like military, law enforcement? Why would we expect these jobs to bear such incredible stress, incredible weight of responsibility, but not allow them to have access to a medication that can help with all of that, right? Do I want them blazing down the street in their 6'4"? Sorry, I had to. If blazing down the street in their cruiser or something, well, again, that really depends on what they're doing. Are they doing it to get high, or are they doing it because they need to? Maybe they just dealt with something, or you know what I mean? Like, I'm sure there's plenty of cops, plenty of teachers, plenty of lawyers, doctors that are popping pills at their desk before they go and do something. Something, sure. You know what I mean? That's got to be happening. So why would we deny these professionals cannabis just because it's cannabis? That makes no sense to me. What do you think?
That makes sense, and I think that's really as long as you're not inebriated. It is a good argument because, like, when you're any inebriant could be an issue, and it's subjective to different people. Because honestly, it's like one person could honestly be like drunk when they're stoned. Another person could be like you or I, where we can smoke all fucking day and still handle ourselves.
Right.
So it really just depends. And I know that like motor skills can sometimes be, impaired, so to speak, but also in some cases for those people who are very tense, I guess it goes both ways. You don't want someone who's going to be flying who's like over tense and over anxious and stressed.
Nope.
But you also don't want to have somebody who like is just too lax and too chill. You need that good balance. So I don't know if adding a substance is the best idea, but you should be able to, if you drop dirty at home, you're consuming at home. Like I'm not high tomorrow. Well, I am because I smoke. But like some people, they'll smoke a little bit and then they're good just after work. But he can go home and drink, right? That's fine.
Sure. Like, that's my point. What about the pilot that just got busted not even like last month, just fucking inebriatedly drunk? You know what I mean? Like drunk.
Yeah.
And you're telling me that was the first time? That was the first time this pilot was hammered? Of course not. How many airplanes has this man flown hammered? Right? It got to. So it's like,
Yeah.
and forget about what about Adderall? That's a very common prescription performance
Oh,
drug.
boy,
You know,
zooted up
keeps
there,
you awake. What
you
about
know?
Ritalin? When I was a kid, that was a great shit. If you didn't swallow, if you didn't take it through your mouth and maybe through other orifices, that shit kept you awake for days. So it's like, how? What about that? Who's taking that? Who's taking Prozac? Who's taking? You know what I mean? Like, just insert different substance here. Who's, you know?
Again, are they doing breathalyzers?
Um, yeah. Well, I would assume. You know.
You know, well,
Uh, but that's my
morning, noon,
point.
and
It's just
night,
like,
but they'll do a drug test, which stays in your the THC stays in your system longer, as
why are we
alcohol won't.
just isolate? Yeah, exactly. And why are we just isolating cannabis? You know what I mean? How come all those prescription drugs I just mentioned are okay?
Well, because they're prescriptions.
And
It's
well,
just
my
the dumbest
prescription. I've got
shit.
a prescription for weed.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's the dumbest shit, man, where it's
So
like
that's
it's this
I understand.
double-sided thing.
It is, you're 100%. You're 100% right. It's double edged, and it's like I just don't understand the concept of how all these people can be high on a bunch of other things, but for some reason it can't be weed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that just doesn't make any sense. I know tons of people that can consume cannabis to a point. Like I'm myself, I can get so stoned where I'm like, I'm not driving anymore, guys. I can get that high. I can get that high. I will smoke and smoke until it's typically like 10, 11, 12 o'clock at night, where I've just consumed so much fucking weed in the day where it's like my eyes are done, my motor skills are pooched, my throat's haggard. I'm done. I can't drive. It's just that simple. I would never consider flying an aircraft or driving. So it's
Yeah.
like, but I can tell you 99% of the time during the day, I'm probably I'm more functional with cannabis in my system than I am without.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
there
I
has to be
definitely am.
pilots like that too. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, and I think it's subjective, and that's the tough part. There can't just be this general rule. You know, it's like you almost have to uh have them do a
A
test
case
flight.
by case
You know,
basis.
yeah,
Yeah.
case by
Yeah.
case situation because
But
it
that's
really depends on the person. You know, I
it
really
does.
don't think
Yep.
that people who can't handle it can also just be like, screw it. Well, they said I couldn't test positive, so it's fine.
Right.
It's like,
It is a
you know,
case by case basis, 100%. But it's like this is why during the hiring process, there's an application phase, there's an interview, there's a vetting period where the employer goes through, okay, what kind of ailments do you have? Okay, you suffer from A, B, and C. All right, what's your medication? A, B, and C. Okay, well, knowing that, let's bring you in. Let's test your motor skills. Let's test your vision. Let's test. They're going to do all that anyways. You know what I mean? So let's see if he can perform his tasks while on his medication. Turns out this guy can't perform on Prozac, Adderall, and cannabis. Unfortunately, he's not a good candidate for, you know what I mean? Not a pilot. If let's say something happened mid career with a pilot, let's say they get in an accident, like I was in a car accident, and and let's say a pilot was halfway through his career, all of a sudden it was head trauma, but can still perform his tasks. Like I quote unquote suffered brain damage during my car accident, but it's only because it was just damaged during the accident. There's nothing wrong with it. So it's like, what if I then needed cannabis, or that pilot then needed cannabis to, deal with the pain, but can still function regularly? Insert different drug here. There's the airline is still going to require him to do independent tests. They're going to ask you again to do the vision tests. They're going to ask you again to do the cognition tests. They're going to ask you again for all these things, right? Well, whether it was cannabis or some epileptic medicine or neurological medicine or whatever, they're going to see if you can function on it, right? The shit I had to take that wasn't weed after my accident, fucking, it retarded my cognition, okay? It slowed it down. And I noticed that. So that wasn't weed. That was a bunch of other shit. So I definitely couldn't have flown on that either. You know what I'm saying? So I just don't think that jobs that have such high level of stress, that goes for the military and the cops, they should have access to this shit. They should.
you'd think, honestly, you'd assume, but
It's
it's
the
like
best medication in the world. I'm biased, but
until it's federally legal and they could do all the testing that they need to be able to do, there's going to be the dumb fucks out there who just really are stuck in the mud. And there's policies and there's things that you can't change. And that, well, you'd like to, we all have our opinions. They're going based on what their restrictions are. So it's cool that at least they're slowly but surely starting to ease off a little bit, but I feel like it's one of those things where it's too many liabilities, insurance, and all these situations that really
It is. Yep.
change it up. It's like
100%. 100%.
politics,
Because
you know?
there's no there. This. You're right. You're right. I'll use that word too. This politics doesn't exist around any other medication. So it's like
Now,
it.
do you guys have this in Canada because it's federally legal? Do you know about
mm,
military stuff with
Yeah,
THC?
you can't. Yeah, you can't. They've
So
they've
it's
made
I
it
feel like
very
if they got a policy, whether we like it or not, it's one of those
That's it.
things where it's like, it
I
sucks.
I applied to be, believe it or not, I wanted to be a cop when I was young. I wanted to be
Mm.
a Royal Canadian Mounted Police, and I applied. And this was a long time ago, and I was using cannabis as a medication, and they denied me solely on that reason. And I took the case all the way to the headquarters in Ottawa, and not to push. It's just that's what they had to do to see if it would pass. And right from the top of the food chain, they said absolutely not, absolutely not, because I use cannabis as a medication. And I let them know that they were losing out on what I would have still argue was an amazing cop. I think it would have been an amazing cop. No matter what I did, I would have been amazing at it. And
Cracking.
so at the same time, right, at the same time, there was a story that was going around in the nudes about a constable. It's funny you say that. That uses cannabis as a medication, and he was smoking joints in uniform during his duties. And it was going through the courts or through the system to determine if he actually had the right to use it. And I believe he ended up winning or winning / losing in terms of he could consume but couldn't do it in uniform. I believe was the final decision.
Well, I
But
like
this is
you way
because he was
better just
already
RPing as a cop, so it worked out.
right. Yeah,
You know, it really
I would have
worked
been a
out in
great.
your way.
Honestly, bro, I would have been an amazing.
Oh, you would have, but we
I,
never would have
I,
met.
it never. No, my life was
Ever.
going to go in an entirely different direction. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. But it
We
would have been
wouldn't be
amazing.
calling you P, we'd be calling you C.
Yeah.
Cap.
Cat.
That's
Cat.
crazy, man.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
But anyways, ladies and gentlemen, that's the nudes. We're always curious what you guys are thinking because man, Rob and I only know so much, mostly nothing, but we have an
But almost
opinion
everything at the same
about
time.
everything. Yeah, that's
Yes.
right. That's right. So we always are curious what you guys think. Don't forget, you can follow Top Buds over on YouTube. Got it.
Yeah, too.
Top Buds with Rob and Pigeons.